we could. Good evening, all. My name is Jim Workman. I'm your moderator for the Hampton School District SAU90 annual meeting. I call this meeting to order on February 7th at 7:01 p.m. I'd like to open the meeting with a pledge of allegiance led by Brian Eric Bailey.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight, showing interest in your town and your school. I'd like to introduce the people here at the table. From my far right to the left, Virginia Russell. Andrea Shepard, Wendy Riga, Frank DeLuca, Les Shepard, Superintendent Lois Costa, SAU Director of Finance Mariah Curtis. I already said I'm Jim Workman, and our clerk is Shirley Doman. So housekeeping to do first. Please, only legal residents of Hampton who are registered to vote can vote. If you need assistance in voting, please ask for it. Please turn off or silence any mobile phones, computers, tablets, pagers, etc. in order to avoid potential disruptions. The rules of the meeting are as follows. My job is to preside over the meeting, regulate the business before us, and make a public declaration of any votes that have passed. We're here to discuss, explain, or amend the articles before us. Under state law, our ability to amend is limited. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. We cannot change or eliminate the subject matter of any article. No new purposes can be introduced that were not warned to voters in the posted warrant. We can change dollar amounts in money articles. Amendments may change the intent of an article. Amendments must be in writing. After any amendment has been moved and seconded, please give the written amendment to me so that I can have it read correctly and the clerk can have it as well. After all discussion, I'll move the article to the ballot either as written or amended. The meeting will then move on to the next article. Under New Hampshire law, the moderator conducts the meeting. The moderator's rulings will be followed unless the meeting votes to overrule the moderator. As moderator, I will not vote nor speak on any articles. However, I reserve the right to speak if a ruling I make is challenged and to call any votes. Only one person may speak at a time, and I ask you to state your name and address for the record. We're being recorded. Please attempt to speak loudly and clearly so as to assist the cable TV crew with providing the best transmission as possible. I ask that we all get to speak at least once before anyone speaks twice in the same article. All people will get a chance to speak if they wish. A secret ballot requires the signature of 5 legal voters present at the meeting to be presented to me in writing before the vote is taken. I would also like a motion to allow the people who are employed by the Hampton School District to speak and explain an article even if they are not a resident of the town. Moved by Mrs. Russell. Second by Mrs. Shepard. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to dispense with the reading of last year's meeting. Russell. Shepard again. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We move on to the actual meat of the article. Article 1. Shall the school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles or other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling $25,005,913. Should this article be defeated, the default budget will be $24,680,704, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by the previous action of the district or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman 10, and Roman 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget. This requires a majority vote only. It is recommended by the school board 5-0 and is recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee 9-0. Entertain a motion? Mr. Reagan? Second? Mr. DeLuca. Any discussion on the budget? From the board or from the public? Seeing none, Article 1 will move to the ballot as presented. Article 2, shall the school district vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hampton School Board and the Seacoast Education Association covering a 3-year period from July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2025, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. Year 2022-23, estimated increase $550,396, sorry. 23-24, $555,930, and 24-25, $542,525. And further raise and appropriate the sum of $550,396 for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, some representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would have been paid at the current staffing levels in accordance with the most recent bargaining agreement. Again, majority votes required. It is recommended by the school board 5-0 and recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee 8-0 and 1 abstention. Motions. Andrea? Second. Jenny? Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public?
Moderator.
Give it a second. Should be.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Brian Warburton, 24 Sanborn Road. I rise tonight in full support of this warrant article, literally all warrant articles. I was the one abstention for transparency. Of course, my wife is a teacher here at SAU90, so I felt it necessary to abstain. However, there is no question that I am totally in favor of both contracts and the budget, and certainly the $300,000 and the Sacred Heart one as well. Let me talk a bit, and I'm going to combine both of them, Mr. Chairman, for the sake of time. What makes up a school? The facility, the administration, the custodians, the food service, parents, PTA organizations, all kinds of other people, young parents, senior citizens who devote hours and hours of time for their kids, our kids, and grandchildren. They support all the events. And to do all this, when you think about how great an investment we've made in our facilities over the years, to do all this, it takes teachers. Outside of your parents, your guardians, what people do you spend the most time throughout your formative years with? Your teachers. Everybody talks about the last 2 years, and I believe it's important to note, I think Dr. Costa, the Hampton School Board, and Mariah and the whole staff, and the teachers, administrators have done a phenomenal job. But think about this. This has never been a 7 to 3 job, right? It's weekends, it's nights, it's talking to parents, it's talking to students. These are tough times, going from remote, hybrid, and now back in school. I know just firsthand, and through all the teachers and people involved in the school districts throughout this community, how hard and how caring they really are. I support these contracts. We have to, as Lois Costa has said, we have to continue for the future. This is now in 2022, and we need to increase the value by giving teachers a good raise, keeping with some great benefits so they'll stay in the district and they'll continue to make such a difference. Combined with that, I want to talk about the paraprofessionals. Think about this. The people who do this job, for not a lot of money, are working with individuals one-on-one within a classroom that have special needs or other things going on. How powerful a statement is that, and parents have commended them as well, and how their child has felt so good about their interactions with it. We've said it sadly, Mr. Moderator, and you have been a great resident these years, and you know you've been a part of this all. A community encompasses everything involved with it. And when we talk about budgets, we have to continue to pass much-needed budgets so that we continue the great services, in this case, the great things we're offering our kids in the form of education. I think this district does it well. I've said for years SAU91 does it well. We are so fortunate. I've been here 42 years. And I hope that we get the word out in a big way. We need a big vote in support of everything on this budget. And of course, Articles 2 and 3, which I referred to. I did want to comment as a member of the Budget Committee, since Chairman Haraki couldn't make it tonight. I don't think she's here. She is here. Oh, Catherine, I'm not going to talk to the budget if she wants to. But we will say that we had a great discussion. Catherine Haraki led a great discussion on her board with Dr. Costa and Mariah and the administration and the school board. We talked about how important it is and how great this budget was. You know, it's tough. And I applaud all the work that you all do. Let's get out and let's keep our education the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warburton. That was very nice to hear. My name is Elizabeth Doust, and I am a 5th grade teacher at Marston Elementary School. I am also the chair of the negotiations committee for our collective bargaining agreement with the Seacoast Education Association. And I want to say on behalf of the staff and the students of Hampton Schools, we'd really like to thank you for the community support in the past. And we're hoping we can count on your support this year as well. We wouldn't have been able to do all the things that we've been able to do without everyone's help. And that means parents and families and people who don't have children in the schools. And it also means all the staff. And we have been amazed by what families have done to help us do what we've done in the past 2 years. I know I've had numerous emails with parents, and it's been heartwarming just as much as it's been challenging to meet the needs of their children in this situation. So we ask for your support with our warrant articles this year for the school budget and for the collective bargaining agreement for the teacher's contract and the paraprofessionals collective bargaining agreement as well. We've always had really high quality schools in Hampton, and I know because I've worked in them for about 28 years. And I am biased, but I think we do amazing work here. And it wouldn't happen without everyone. We've also attracted lots of families to the town of Hampton, and we've attracted some amazing teachers, people who I consider my best friends, people who I have such admiration for, and that goes for the administration and the custodians and the paraprofessionals and everyone who makes a school, everyone in the offices and at the SAU. I haven't run into anyone I haven't enjoyed working with and haven't admired. Currently, our contracts are not as competitive, and that's at almost every level. Our contracts aren't as competitive as area schools. We've fallen behind. And in order for us to start to bridge that gap in salaries, it's really important that we're able to pass these contracts. Otherwise, we'll fall further behind. Currently, there is a teacher shortage. Fewer and fewer students are choosing education as a career. We hope to try and change that. We've got some things that we want to work on with Dr. Costa to see if we can't change the mind of some of our young people. We ask for your support in these votes so that not only can we attract good teachers, but that we retain the good teachers we have, because we've lost some to other area schools in recent times. We love what we do. We love our kids and their families, and we love the school community. And we're humbly asking for your support for the collective bargaining agreements, warrant articles 2 and 3, in addition to the school budget. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sarah Elliott. I live at 368 Winnicott, and I have 3 students currently enrolled at Marston and Center Schools. And a huge thank you to any teacher in this room or any teacher who may be watching at home. I'll keep it brief. I think we owe it to our town, to our teachers, to our students to support this article. We are, as Ms. Douse eloquently put, far behind other districts and facing not only a labor shortage here, but across the country. I just read an article, I think the teacher quit rate in the last year is up 238%. So we can deal with this proactively by enticing people to stay and encouraging people to come, or we can deal with this in a triage situation where we've lost teachers, where class sizes increase, where the landscape of Hampton changes to an older demographic, which, as we know, is just bad in general. So I think, I drive by center school sometimes at 6 in the morning, and there are teacher cars there. And I drive by center school, which is on my street, at 5 in the afternoon, and there are teacher cars there. These teachers deserve, and these paraprofessionals especially, God, deserve to make more than they would make at McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts. It is awful that we cannot pay them what they're worth. Everybody deserves that. I think we can all agree. And I have been so fortunate to get to know my kids' teachers and other teachers in the building, and they won't maybe feel comfortable saying it, but a lot of times they don't feel supported, and this is a really clear indication of how they measure that. We pay them what they're worth, what they deserve, and that's how we show gratitude. And also, everybody should, send them a thank you email and maybe get them a bottle of wine at the end of the year. Thank you.
Your article will go to the ballot as presented. Article 3, shall the school district vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hampton School Board and the Seacoast Educational Support Professionals Association, covering a 3-year period from July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2025, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at current staffing levels. For year 2022-23, $91,187, 23-24, $84,207, and 24-25, $70,658. And further raise and appropriate the sum of $91,187 for the 2022-23 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that we paid at the current staffing levels in accordance with the most recent collective bargaining agreement. Majority votes required. It is recommended by the school board 5-0 and recommended by the municipal budget committee 9-0. Moved? Jenny?
Yep.
Second? Les? Anyone wishing to discuss the board? The public?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline McCoy, 1080 Lane, Hampton. I am Vice President of SESPA, the Seacoast Educational Support Professional Association, also known as the Paraprofessionals for SAU90. I've been a Hampton resident for 21 years. I've worked in the Hampton School District for the last 17, and I've been part of the negotiating team for over 12 years now. I'm here tonight to explain why it's imperative that this article passes and to ask for your support. Currently, the rate of pay for our paraprofessionals is less appealing than other districts, and there is an opportunity to make more money elsewhere. This warrant article is written in order to directly address this issue. Our hiring power and retention rate are of the utmost importance to keeping SAU90 one of the top districts in the state. By voting yes on this warrant article, we will increase the appeal to applicants, and we will therefore have a larger pool of qualified applicants to choose from. And in return, we will be able to be more selective in who we hire, which means that we will be able to offer better services to identified students, which would decrease the potential for out-of-district costs. I realize that not many people totally understand what out-of-district costs actually are, and year over year, we hear the Budget Committee discuss how to reduce these costs. So I'm here tonight to tell you that Article 3 is your answer. We are legally obligated to pay out-of-district costs to students we cannot provide proper IEP services, and especially if we don't have the staffing. By offering competitive wages to our paraprofessionals, we will be able to hire and retain more qualified candidates that can provide outstanding services and keep identified students in our district. Out-of-district students can cost us from a low of $60,000 to a high of $125,000 per student per year. These numbers don't even include the transportation cost that goes along with this, which can go from $8,000 to $96,000 on top of that amount. So an out-of-district student can run anywhere from $100,000 to $225,000 per student per year. Yes vote on Hampton's School District warrant Article 3 can have a direct impact on the amount we all as a town pay for these services. This article increases taxes by 2 cents per thousand, which would be the cost of an average home in Hampton, $10. I am asking you tonight to vote yes on Hampton School District Article 3 and support our contract. Thank you.
Good evening, People Sergeant Henry Timbers, Swampro, Hampton. I'm not an instructor. I'm someone that's in the buildings and sees everybody work every day. I don't know about moms and dads, grandparents, aunts and uncles that are home, Hampton voters, and how we've looked upon education in the last year and how challenging it's been. But I want you to know that these folks that are working in these jobs are first responders, whether they're teachers or whether they're paraprofessionals. They are there every day taking COVID-19 on, up and down the halls, supervising the kids at lunchtime, out on recess, taking them out for mask breaks. If you think it's challenging to be at home wearing a mask or being outside wearing a mask, I know masks are controversial, but under Code Red, we wear masks in the schools, and we're in red zone right now, which is high transmission, that these people show up every single day, put their mask on, and deliver services to these students. That's a tough job. That's why a lot of people are leaving the profession. But know that you have a good group here in Hampton and support both of our labor contracts. Thank you.
Hi, Maureen DeLuca, 13 Raymond Lane, Hampton. I come to speak in favor of Article 3, and having been in special education for close to 30 years now, you really realize the importance of paraprofessionals. They are the backbone of special education, and it's impossible to provide services for our neediest students without them. As Jackie McCoy said, it's 2 cents per thousand for an average of $10 on your tax bill. This is a drop in the bucket compared to what it would cost for out-of-district placements, as she also mentioned. I often think about, I worked with Jackie for over 13 years at Hampton Academy, and she is an outstanding para, she's professional, she has the students' best needs in mind, and without her knowledge, dedication, and passion towards the students, I could not have done my job effectively. Just a little anecdote, many students that we have worked with in the past would come and visit us from Winnicott High School, and they would always say, you know, Mrs. McCoy, thank you for believing in us, thank you for helping us, thank you for showing that we have some self-worth. And isn't this what it's all about? The students. So I encourage you to vote for Article 3 of the CESPA contract. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Roy. I live at 58 Lock Road. I am a paraprofessional. I've worked for the district for the last 15 years. I've been a resident of Hampton for the last 23. Many, many times I've been asked, what is a paraprofessional? What do you do? What does a para do? Well, sometimes the numbers on a math sheet dance around, or the words on a page just don't make sense.
Or the instructions fly quickly by and go way too fast. We make the numbers stand still. We help the words make sense. We slow down the instructions to help them to be heard and understood. Sometimes, the noise in the room is just too loud, or the space is just too bright, or the games, or the relationships with peers, or life is just too confusing. We quiet the noise. We take away the glare. We help our kids create friendships, learn the games, and find the happiness and joy. But most of all, we help our kids find success in the way that works for them, in a way that makes them proud. I think the question of what we do is best answered by the kids themselves. They call us helper teachers. We're in every grade level. We can be in any classroom. We support all curriculum. We work with one student or groups of students, but truthfully, we work with and support all of the students. But what do we do? What does a para do? We help all of our students access their education in a way that works best for them. I humbly hope that you all support the C and CESPA articles that will help us to continue to do what we love to do.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Article 3 will move to the ballot as presented. Article 4, shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $300,000 to continue long-term maintenance, repair, and modernization work to include technical and/or engineering services at Hampton, Marston, and Center School buildings and grounds. This article is a continuation of the annual program planned to keep the buildings updated and in good condition, thereby protecting the taxpayers' investments. Planned projects for the 2022 to 2025 are listed below. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation for RSA 32:7, Roman 6, and will not lapse until these projects are completed or June 30, 2025, whichever is earlier. A majority vote is required. It's recommended by the school board 5-0 and recommended by the municipal budget committee 9-0. The projects are as follows. Marston School, ADA improvements district-wide at sum of $5,000. LED lighting upgrades phased $10,000 for a total of $15,000 at the Marston School. At the Center School, HVAC IAQ original building phased $265,000. Roof repairs ongoing $10,000. LED lighting upgrades phased $10,000 for a sum of $285,000. Those together make $300,000. Moved by Leslie. Seconded by Frank. Discussion from the board. For the public. Seeing none, we'll go to ballot as presented. Article 5, shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate the sum, funds in the amount of, try that again. 5, shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate funds in the amount of $65,308 to provide child benefit services in accordance with RSA 189:49 for students who are residents of the Hampton School District and attend the Sacred Heart School located in Hampton, New Hampshire. This is by petition. The majority vote is required. It is recommended by the school board 5-0 and recommended by the municipal budget committee 8-0-1. Moved by Frank, second, Wendy. Anyone from the board? Anyone from the public?
Good evening, Mark McFarland, 3 Warner Lane. I've actually risen and spoken against this a number of times, both when I was on the budget committee as well as a parent, taxpayer, and resident. I've watched this go up and up the last 25 years. I had an objection originally to it. I don't know our business sending money to private schools. I do know by RSA it's allowed, and I'm assuming by RSA we provide, I'm kind of a question thrown out there, but I'm guessing we provide a number of these services that are covered under 189:49 already, such as busing benefits, I wonder if we give some testing services. I'm guessing we already provide that school with a number of benefits. $65,000 or thereabouts is almost enough, by my calculations, almost, to cover 2 paraprofessionals. It's almost enough to cover a full-time teaching contract package. Not quite, I understand that. We have vouchers in place in the state for people looking for assistance going to private institutions. That's out there. That's a discussion for another day. But that is available. So I'd like to propose an amendment to this article. My amendment reads, shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate funds in the amount of $0?
Is that right answer? Right? Yeah. Is there a second to the McFarland amendment? Second. Your answer? Response. Discussion on the amendment.
My name is Neil Raven, 6 Barron Road.
Sorry, sir, one more time.
Neil Raven, 6 Barron Road.
Thanks.
I rise today to speak about the use of Hampton Town taxpayer funds to support the Sacred Heart School. A school I admire, which I support with my own personal check from my own personal account, hand delivered to the school itself. It has done much good by students who have attended there, and I admire it. But when I read the letter that is always published after these warrant articles from the principal of the Sacred Heart School, virtually the same every year, I am flabbergasted, because what she says is these funds are applied towards textbooks, school supplies, technology, testing materials, and our school nurse and supplies. Listen carefully to what she is saying, what she is not saying. She is saying these funds are used to cover operating expenses of the school. She's not saying the funds are used to cover the nurse's salary, and that is all. They are to cover the operating expenses, which is to say they cover the operating expenses of the Miraculous Metal Church, because you cannot separate the school from the church any more than you can separate the engine from the car. You cannot say pay for this car, but the engine cost comes as a separate expense. All parts of this mechanism function as one. And remember, this is not a Catholic hospital we're talking about, which sells services, fees for services, and appendectomy on the open market to the government. This is a tithe. The school is using this to run a church organ. Now, why should we care about this at all? 2 sets of reasons, principle and practical. As for the principle, here's the matter of our national constitution and the Bill of Rights. The very first words of the Bill of Rights, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of a religion. Now, if Hampton were a village in England, we'd not even comment on this about taxpayer funds used to draw from a town account to support the Church of England. But here we have Madison and Jefferson and all that crowd saying, no, there should be a bright line between church and state. Why should we worry about what Jefferson thought? After all, it's hundreds of years since he was writing. We know these folks at Sacred Heart. They're good people, I agree. They're our neighbors. But ask yourself if Hampton would support a madrasa school for Muslims, or a Jewish day school, or a Baptist school. You will say, well, but none of these schools have ever asked to be supported. The fact is, as it stands, Hampton supports only one church in this town. Then there's the question of the RSA, the state law which applies government support, which allows government support for a school nurse. This says if you require a nurse for all students in town, then you can support the salary of a nurse to a private school. And I would have no objection whatsoever to paying the salary directly to that nurse if she's actually required by the state law to be there. There is, in fact, a Supreme Court case, Everson, which says that if a government says it will support transportation for all students in town, it must bus the Catholic kids to the Catholic school, because to refuse to provide Catholics transportation would discriminate on the basis of religion. The service must be provided to all kids, no matter what school or what religion. But Principal Bailey is explicit in her letter. The money may be used in part for a nurse, but that is only part of operating expenses. You cannot claim RSA as a justification for this town check. RSA is not a mandate. It is a smokescreen. We are not paying a nurse's salary here. We are paying for operational expenses of the Catholic Church. Now for the practical reasons to reconsider this support. Some of my neighbors argue that if we did not support Sacred Heart, it would close and our town schools would be overwhelmed by students from the school, and it would cost us more to educate these kids in public schools. But this supposes that there are no empty desks at Hampton schools or insufficient numbers of teachers. Would we have to hire more teachers or buy more desks? Are Hampton schools filled already? Or are we, in effect, paying twice for these kids? Once with previously budgeted monies for all students in town, and once again to Sacred Heart. And lastly, there's the problem of legal liability. New Hampshire is not new to cases brought to the Supreme Court on principle. A famous case of church and state is already in precedent. A Jehovah's Witness taped over the "Live Free or Die" on his license plate was arrested and fined. That went all the way to the Supreme Court in Washington. Someday this practice may be discovered. It has flown beneath the radar low these many years, but if it does go to court, that $65,000 will look like chicken feed. Thank you.
One further on the McFarland amendment.
I'm Corinne Baker, 244 Exeter Road. Sacred Heart School is not only a private school, it's a Catholic school. I'm the product of a Catholic education. My parents paid, I think it was like $450 a year in 1958 for me and my sisters to attend a co-ed Catholic high school. So I'm not against Catholic education. My father had taken a second job to pay for that. It was considerable at the time. Right now I'm thinking, if we give money to Sacred Heart, what about Hampton students who attend Herrenfeld Academy or Portsmouth Christian Academy or St. Patrick's School? When will they be coming looking for money? I think our public money, our public taxes go to public schools. Thank you.
Further on the McFarland amendment.
Hi, Angelo Montrone. Regarding the gentleman, name is Angelo Montrone. Regarding the gentleman that spoke just prior, I would just like to ask, do you have any evidence that Sacred Heart is using the money for the church? Or is that just an assumption or an allegation that's unfounded? Because a lot of your argument was based on this assumption that I don't think unless you have documentation, it's a pretty big allegation to make without any documentation. With due respect, I agree with some of what you said, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Good evening, Speaker, members of the board, and members of the community. My name is Mike Cristiano. I'm at 1 Hilda Drive, and I'm here to speak a little bit, and maybe on the opposite side of some of the previous speakers in favor of Article 5. My daughter does go to Sacred Heart School, and I know some of the other speakers had very good points bringing up, talking about the different ways in which this money would be spent, but I'm here tonight to tell you that my daughter has been the direct recipient of some of the funds and services provided from the taxpayers to our family, and that's been more in the areas of speech and communication. So without going into great detail, I sincerely appreciate the members of the community voting previously to have those services available, and I would ask that everyone please consider approving and voting in favor of these funds so that my daughter, but other students like her who have a lot more, more critical needs, say, have the ability to utilize those services that these types of funds would provide the opportunity for. Thank you.
Good evening. Jackie Kennedy, 718th Street. I rise in support of Article 5 as stated in the warrant and firmly believe that Sacred Heart School should continue to receive funding as proposed in this year's SAU90 budget. My husband and I are longtime Hampton residents. We're both former teachers and coaches. My husband in the public school system in Salem, New Hampshire and Andover, Mass. Myself at St. Augustine's School in Andover, Central Catholic in Lawrence, and then later here in Hampton. We're both public school educated, but we earned our higher education degrees at Boston College. And we both often reflected that Jesuits at Boston College didn't tell us what to think, they taught us how to think. And that's what effective education, such as that offered at Sacred Heart School, is all about. As a Catholic school, it certainly strives to educate students on Catholic doctrine. It does not, however, indoctrinate its students. It gives them the tools to think critically and to discern their role in the world. Their mission is to nurture, support, and educate their students to become healthy, well-rounded, contributing members of society, using their gifts and talents to the best of their abilities to make the world around them a better place. It's a worthy mission, but it's certainly a worthy mission that is shared by our Hampton schools as well. My husband and I have no children of our own in Hampton schools, but for the past 50 years have employed upwards of 20 high school and college-age students each summer. That's a lot of young people over those many years. All of these students are locals. Most of them are from our seacoast communities. We see firsthand the benefit of supporting our local schools, all of our local schools, both public and private schools alike. We're happy to do so in tangible ways through our tax dollars and in many other intangible ways. We support the article to fund Sacred Heart School and urge our Hampton neighbors to do so as well. Thank you.
Excellent comments, Jack. Mr. Moderator, before I make my comments, and I'm sure Mrs. Bridle Russell's seeing the same thing, it is my understanding, for at least for the last 50 years in this town that I've been involved, a private petition article could not be amended unless they're the petitioner. We had this happen Saturday, so I'm asking you to make a judgment on that.
The amount can be changed, yes.
They now can, because Saturday the petitioner had to be there to amend it.
No, once it's open to this discussion, it's open.
Oh, okay, but you would agree years ago that it was only the private petitioner could do it. I hope people vote this amendment down. I don't know, Dr. Costa could probably tell us the cost if we absorbed the Hampton students that are attending Sacred Heart into our school system, which is roughly around $19,000 per student right now in SAU90. It's my understanding too that with a lot of the services, mostly nursing services, my understanding, and I've talked to Father Gary, and I'm a lifetime Catholic and proud to be a Catholic, and I'm involved with our church locally. But this has been an article that has passed, with the exception of, since I've been here, the exception of 2 years was close, has overwhelmingly been passed. I think Jackie Kennedy brought up an excellent point. Listen, it's a great school system. A lot of we residents do a lot for people involved in the church and in the community, our kids, our parents. But the other problem I have about this, zeroing this out, and if we're to be voted to go to zero. There's been no mention, I don't know if there's any conversations by the people who spoke with the people who put the petition in, or talked to Father Gary Kosmowski. So that's the concern I have on that. But I absolutely hope we vote this amendment down, and let's keep with what the Budget Committee and the school board overwhelmingly, and have overwhelmingly voted year after year for these monies. Thank you.
Hello again, Sarah Elliott, 368 Winnicott Road. It's hard to speak up here in opposition to something that has been so popular and approved for so long. I think we've been doing it since the 70s, maybe. I'm happy that Sacred Heart exists in our town. I'm happy that it's a great option for families. From everything I've heard, they do provide a great education. Sometimes, for whatever reason, public school isn't an option, and families should absolutely have the ability to choose an alternative for their kids. But I think if we just go through where it started, where we are now, I know that people have strong opinions, so I'm hoping that the people who are firmly in the camp of, yes, let's vote this through, may just consider some additional information. I tried to speak with everyone I could about this so I could really understand the issue. This year, this past March, the Educational Savings Program passed, which gives families the opportunity, if they are at 300% of the poverty line, which for a family of 4 in New Hampshire is $79,000-ish, they can receive directly from their SAU funds for their child between $3,000 and $9,000 to then take and give to a parochial school, private school, homeschool, alternative option of their choice. This is something that's happening now. So 40% of students who attend Sacred Heart from Hampton who meet this threshold will be taking money already. This is happening. They'll be taking money from the SAU budget and giving it to Sacred Heart directly themselves. So, in light of that, we stand to be duplicating efforts there. Additionally, we don't know that Sacred Heart needs this money. We don't know what their financials are. That is not disclosed to us, and while happy to help if it's needed, knowing whether, gauging that need, knowing that SAU90 is in desperate need of equipment, teacher support, all sorts of things. I think Sacred Heart has catered lunch on Mondays right now. So SAU90 is definitely not in a comparable position from the outside. And I could be totally wrong because I just don't have access to that information. I have more notes here. So also Hampton, to my knowledge, is the only town that does this. I know that several students from Hampton Falls attend, several students from Northampton attend, Seabrook students are in attendance. I don't understand why it's to Hampton to shoulder the sole burden of contributing public funds to a private school. But again, I think it's just something that we've done for so long, nobody questions it anymore. I think in the 70s or early 80s, there was a building issue and we offered to offset costs to Sacred Heart by, sending them some money for taking some of our kids. And then it just kind of got stuck in there and everybody does it, so everybody likes it and nobody ever really stops to think about it. But I think we can tell from the room tonight that people are starting to say, hey, wait a minute, why are we doing this? And if we want to keep doing it, that's fine. I just think stopping to take a look at it is a really good idea. For figures, kind of a rough estimate, if Sacred Heart has 40 Hampton students enrolled with the voucher program, that means that $48,000 to $144,000 with a median of $96,000 will go directly from SAU funding under the Educational Savings Act to Sacred Heart schools. So these kind of small factors aren't enough on its own to make me say let's not do it. There is one concerning thing that may be conjecture, but I think bears mention that Sacred Heart this year canceled a scholastic book fair on the basis of the way that same-sex marriage was portrayed in some of the literature. And they opted instead for a Christian book fair. All other reasons aside, if there is any truth to this, there is not a justification on earth that would make me okay with sending public money there. I think if there is any child in town who's being told that there's something of shame in who they are by a school, that we owe it to ourselves and our own values to put a stop to that immediately. So, the amendment that I am proposing does not cease funding.
There's an amendment on the floor right now. You can't propose another amendment. We're talking about an amendment right now.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll come back for that then. Thank you.
Speaking to the McFarland amendment.
My name is Erica DeVries. I live at 39 Esker Road. And there was a question earlier regarding ownership of Sacred Heart and the parish. And I just want to provide a point of clarification. I've worked extensively with the Roman Catholic Church. I am Roman Catholic myself. And the Sacred Heart School and the Sacred Heart Parish is owned by the Bishop of Manchester, His Excellency. And all of the funds are owned by him. So every church building and every school in this state is owned by the Roman Catholic bishop. So is there any proof? Yes, that's how the Roman Catholic diocese is organized. So those funds are commingled with, and my point is, those funds are commingled with church funds.
Moderator, thank you for having me. My name is Megan Kilger, and I'm the current principal at Sacred Heart School. I come from 15 years in public education myself. I'm admittedly new to private school, and I've experienced lots of differences this year. But I can tell you that the biggest commonality is that schools are student-centered. So whether a student is attending public school or a private school, the focus is on students. Some information that was shared was inaccurate, and I'd like to clear that up. We currently have 4 students that take part in the current EFAs through the state, only 2 of which are from Hampton. So of our 241 students, 2 students take part in the EFA counts. We share these students in our community, so I'm open to a conversation with anyone that would like to come have a conversation with me. No one has reached out to talk about this. I am new as of July, but I would love to have a conversation. But I don't want this to be an argument over money. I want this to be a conversation about supporting our students, whether they're in our building at Sacred Heart School, or here at Hampton Academy, or Marston, or wherever they're attending. Families have chosen to bring their kiddos to Sacred Heart for a lot of different reasons. And the conversation around Article 5 is an opportunity for child benefit services, nursing salary, and technology. It's really a small portion of funds used to support the best interests of children. It's not used to support the best interests of Sacred Heart School. It's to use and to support the best interests of children. And I wanted to come and, again, offer the opportunity for anyone that wants to come have a conversation, to come have a conversation about it, so we can share with you what we are doing with our students, and you can come take a tour of our building and see what we're doing. But we're there for students, and I think the taxpayers in this district are also there for students. You can see it in some of the other articles that we've discussed tonight. So this isn't an argument about $65,000. This is an argument of whether or not we're going to support our students in Hampton or not, regardless of which door they walk in every day. Thank you.
Lisa Arakilian, 52 Tidewell Road. Myself and my husband have 1 student in Hampton Academy, 1 student in Sacred Heart. Just to touch upon the book fair, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about Sacred Heart and where this money goes and what's going on. There was no canceled book fair. It was virtual due to COVID. And this money is to help the students, just like any of these other warrant articles on the table. I don't think we give enough as a town to the students, to the teachers, to the admin. There's never enough, and this is why we're having teachers leave, we're having paras leave. So even the articles and the warrant articles that are on the table right now, I still don't feel like they're funded enough for the staff that are in the town. Sacred Heart, and I really feel that everyone should speak to the new principal this year and get the facts straight as to where this money goes. There is no busing for Sacred Heart. It goes to the students that are in our town, and I don't want to speak for Sacred Heart, but I think there might be maybe 50 or 60 Hampton residents that go to Sacred Heart, which isn't a lot of students, but the school needs this money to function. They do not have deep pockets. They're not a multi-million-dollar school. They have bare bones. They're always asking for help from parents, from the community, and I just feel like we need to support this school in our community. They're not pocketing the funds, they're not misusing the funds, and I think it's the right thing for this town to do, to not only support Sacred Heart, but also to support our other schools as much as possible going forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Hoyt. I live at 90 Mill Road in Hampton, and I've been a resident of this town for 51 years. I have attended every school in this district, including Sacred Heart School, and my students have attended the public schools up until 5th grade at Marston School, so Center Marston. We had a wonderful experience. I have one child at Sacred Heart School this year, and I want to just give you some basic numbers, okay? At $18,000 per student that the district pays for SAU90, we are asked, Sacred Heart School is asking for approximately $1,000 of that. There are 62 students that are Hampton residents that are now attending Sacred Heart School. So it's $1,000. So we're leaving $17,000 approximately on the table for SAU90 still, okay? I think we're really nitpicking here. As Lisa already mentioned, it really serves the community. It has filled a void for a lot of students and parents. Again, there is no busing there. As far as the book fair goes, I have, some information if anybody is interested in it. My son was moving from 4th grade to 5th grade this past year, and he received a summer reading list. There are 41 books that extended over 8 categories, all dealing with faith, hope, love, community, justice, courage, reconciliation, and service. It crossed all kinds of political spectrums, lots of books on equality and diversity. I'm not sure where this vicious rumor about the book fair came from. It was online. I think it's really inappropriate, and I would like to just say, let's move this forward as we have done for the last 40 years, supported the school. Just like, as a taxpayer, I'm more than willing to support my public school. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Augusta, and I'm a parent at Sacred Heart School. I'm also a property owner here in Hampton. I know that it's been mentioned before, but a couple of extra things. Sacred Heart School does not have catered lunches. In fact, I was kind of jealous that Hampton offered free lunches to all students last year. We did not have that. So Megan, if you want to. No, they pay for it. Because we don't have a lunch woman.
Keep the topic to the
Yes.
next, please.
So we don't have catered lunch. We subcontract out because we don't have a lunch program. So students do pay for that lunch, students and parents. Again, I'm not going to mention the book fair. I will mention that students there are taught compassion and open-mindedness. And I will say that now more than ever, we do need nursing support at our school with the pandemic. It's not just the physical needs of the students, but also the mental well-being of the students and having that role model there. So
I just wanted to say that I support with my tax dollars the Hampton teachers and the paraprofessionals. I think my mother was a teacher, my sister-in-law is a teacher, my brother's a teacher, and I am a training professional in the corporate world. I have utmost respect for all who educate. And I just want to say that I support the public schools, and we're asking for a small amount of consideration for our nursing. Thank you.
Just to bring it back, the McFarland Amendment would have the Article 5 read, shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate funds in the amount of $0 to provide child benefit services in accordance with RSA 189:49 for students who are residents of the Hampton School District and attend the Sacred Heart School located in Hampton, New Hampshire by petition. So I would now call the question. All those in favor of the McFarland Amendment, raise your right hand. Keep them up, please. All those opposed? Motion fails. So the article will read again. Shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate funds in the amount of $65,308 to provide child benefit services in accordance with RSA 189:49 for students who are residents of the Hampton School District and attend Sacred Heart School located in Hampton, New Hampshire. Further discussion on the article?
Sarah Elliott, 368 Winnicott again. Is it appropriate now to introduce an amendment for this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'm proposing just two caveats to receiving the funding, not ceasing it. First caveat would be that Sacred Heart School makes public its financial standing, including budget and operating costs. If a reserve greater than or equal to $65,308 exists, all funds provided by SAU90 will be forfeited. Secondly, Sacred Heart School agrees to renounce religious exemption and abide by the same state and federal laws that govern SAU90 with regard to discrimination, which, if I am mistaken, and sincere apologies if I had it wrong about the book fair, that came from a source within Sacred Heart School, so I thought that I had done my due diligence there, but deepest apologies if I was wrong. And if I am, then this should be super easy to adhere to. Sacred Heart School agrees to renounce religious exemption and abide by the same state and federal laws that govern SAU90 with regard to discrimination. Sacred Heart further acknowledges that failure to adhere to this agreement will result in forfeiture of funds and full immediate repayment to the school district.
Is that right, Ms. Elliott?
It is.
Is there a second to the Elliott Amendment? Anyone wishing to speak to the Elliott Amendment?
Catherine Haraki, 5 Nathaniel Court. I just thought I had to stand up and speak on this amendment only because I am on the budget committee and I abstained, and I just want to make it clear. I feel just like the funds that we give to like Crossroads and St. Vincent de Paul's and other charities with our tax money, I abstain from those as well. I feel like let the town decide. And if you want to know my opinion, you can ask me in private. I don't want to give my personal opinion on this, but as a budget committee, yeah, we have the funds, so technically we can do it, but this is something I think that is not to do with operating of the town, and let the townspeople decide. Just I thought you needed that explanation of why there was an abstention.
The Elliott Amendment.
Hi, thanks, Mark McFarland again. I love this amendment. I liked mine better, but I think that there are a number of people in this room who I've listened to in public really pick apart amounts smaller than $65,000 unless they were warranted and proved and shown, and how can it be that much? So I'm assuming that those same people would have no problem. I think it's basic. If we're handing money over from our taxes, if I'm writing that check in the town, I can see it itemized. The town is very good, so is the school district, about itemizing where every dollar is spent. I think that's the least we can ask as the taxpayers handing this money over, that the school itemize an account and show where this money is actually spent. And in fact, if they don't need the money at the end of the year, there's no harm. So I don't see any harm in this amendment. I think it's a good one. It's a good start. Thank you.
One further on the Elliott amendment. Sir.
I was asked earlier, a good question actually, how do you know how these funds are spent? I said that I thought they were spent for operating expenses, not just the nurse. And so I wanted to respond to that. It is a matter of public record. I'm holding in my hand the Seacoast Online letter written by and signed by Teresa Moran Bailey, who was the principal of Sacred Heart School. Was the principal? Was the principal. She wrote the same letter multiple years in a row, and she specifically says that this is not just for a nurse, it's for operating expenses. I did want to add, I spent 20 years in the faculty of a Catholic university. I have nothing against Catholic schools. I love Catholic schools, Jesuit schools in particular. But I would object to $1 being spent from our taxes to go to the Sacred Heart. I would lead the charge. I will volunteer my services to raise funds for Sacred Heart School as long as it comes from each and every one of your personal accounts, as it did from my own, but not from the state. Think of where we come from. We are not England, we are America. This is all about where we came from as a country. Jefferson, Madison, all those guys matter.
Thank you, sir. Further to the Elliott amendment.
I just want to...
Can we let somebody else go first before you speak second?
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator. Our meeting would like to add something.
I'm Ryan Curtis. I'm the Director of Finance at Hampton School District. I pay all the bills for Sacred Heart. The money does not go to them at all other than the nurse percentage. And I have the nurse's information, and I actually cut the check for the nurse. I also do all the purchase orders and pay off invoices of the items for Sacred Heart. I don't give them a check. So the money does not go to Sacred Heart. I pay for all of the invoices through purchase orders. I have all the information and breakdown if you would like to know where that went to. 75-ish% goes to the nurse, and the rest is usually technology, product-based for students. And I have all that information.
Thank you, Mariah.
Would you be, the amendment was read very quickly, and I was wondering if you could repeat the section about the school having to adhere to certain state rules with regards to blah, 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 blah. The financial disclosure was fairly clear, but the devil's in the details, and I would like to hear that a little more clearly, if you don't mind.
Yep. I will read it. The amendment is, shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate funds in the amount of $65,308 to provide child benefit services in accordance with RSA 189:49 for students who are residents of the Hampton School District and attend Sacred Heart School located in Hampton, New Hampshire. Funding would be provided, this is the amendment. Funding would be provided under the following conditions. First, Sacred Heart School makes public its financial standing, including budget and operating costs. If a reserve greater than or equal to $65,308 exists, all funds provided by SAU90 would be forfeited. Second, Sacred Heart School agrees to renounce religious exemption and abide by the same state and federal laws that govern SAU90 with regard to discrimination. Sacred Heart further acknowledges that failure to adhere to this agreement will result in forfeiture of funds and full immediate repayment to the school district.
So, principal would have to speak to the financial disclosure and the other part, but I think that clearly Sacred Heart has never been accused of segregating or violating any of those rules. However, one of the reasons that parents choose private schools is that they're not always subject to all of the things that the state subjects other schools too. The whole point of it is that there's an option. And Sacred Heart is a Catholic school. And to suddenly say, well, we're just going to follow everything that the state doles out, eliminates their autonomy to make moral decisions that they feel are right for the students who have all chosen to be there because of some of the morality that's taught there. They do teach a Christian morality, but it's universal. There are students there that are Catholic, that aren't even Christian. So I think the devil is in the details. It sounds great to say, well, they're going to not discriminate. You don't discriminate anyway. But what it does say is they suddenly, in certain respects, become a public school, and that eliminates the option of parents who don't necessarily want some of the state regulations for whatever reason, and don't think that's for the worst of reasons. It may be for the best of reasons. There are sometimes things that the states, especially these days, are imposing on the kids that parents have chosen to send their children to a private school, to a Christian school, because they don't want certain ideologies being taught to them, certain requirements being imposed by the state. Or maybe they want the school to be able to teach those ideologies in a flexible way, not imposed by the state. So I think that, what's the procedure to propose that you strike that from the...
After discussion's finished, we'll have a vote on it and see where it goes from there.
I would suggest that either the amendment be stricken or that point be stricken from the amendment.
First, we have to vote on the amendment that's before us. I'm sorry, one more time, sir. Your name for the record.
Angelo Montrone.
Thank you, sir. 1 second. Anybody else? First time. Now, Ms. Elliott, then we'll call the vote.
I initially stood to say what Mariah already said. We do have exact oversight on where the money is spent. Everything goes through the SAU, which I think is great. What the amendment is specifically seeking is to know the financial status of Sacred Heart School and whether or not the funds are necessary. Just wanted to clarify that.
Seeing no one further, we'll call the vote. The Elliott amendment. All in favor? Leave your hands up. 1, 2, 7, 8, 9. Opposed to the Elliott amendment? You must, please. The Elliott amendment fails, 22 to 12. Further discussion on Article 5.
I'd like to ask for an amendment to Article 5. Since this is being positioned as apparently it's the only religious school in town, which I appreciate. As I said before, sorry,
For the
Eric
record, ma'am,
DeVries.
name and address again.
Eric DeVries.
Address, please.
39 Esker.
Thank you.
But we're talking about this in terms of like whether it's about the children. Of course it's about the children, and most independent and religious schools charge tuition, and that tuition is paid by parents as opposed to taxpayers. There are people in this town who are not Catholic, and by a result of this article, they are having to subsidize a Catholic education, even if they're atheist, if they're Muslim, and if they're Jewish, or some other faith tradition. So what I would offer to make this religious neutral is that, and that we insert into the language an equal amount to all other religious schools, including Muslim and Jewish schools, and schools of no faith tradition that start in the town of Hampton, because otherwise this is a strong preference for a Catholic faith institution.
Except without a specific amount, we don't know what the impact's going to be on the warrant.
Of an equal amount.
Do you know the number of schools?
Well, any that arises. So if a Muslim school or a Jewish school would start in the town of Hampton, can't we just appoint an equal amount or no?
You certainly can if you had a number of schools that would be multiplied by 65,000. But you can't leave it open-ended because then you won't properly notice what the amount's going to be. Not to exceed X.
For equality's sake, then, how about an equal amount to of an equal amount to every other faith tradition school or independent school that opens. So 65, my eyes aren't good enough, 65,000, whatever that number is.
But that needs to have a multiplier next to it, whether it be 1, 2, 1,000, but it can't be open-ended. Because then the amount is unknown.
Okay, so let's...
So 65,000, yes, times 3 more schools is, don't make the lawyer do the math, but roughly $195,000.
Or if another school then were to...
But if it's
could we phrase it
7, we
this
don't
way?
know. It has to be a finite number.
Should a Jewish school or a Muslim school open in the town of Hampton, that $65,000 is divided equally amongst those institutions? Because right now, my concern is that this feels like a strong bias towards Catholic education over other faith traditions.
Do you have it in writing?
I have and an equal amount to all other religious schools, including Muslim schools and Jewish schools, but I can certainly add in divisible by.
Reduce it to writing.
In the amount of $65,000 to provide child benefit services in accordance with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or divided by the number of religious educational institutions in the town of Hampton.
Is there a second to that? Gentleman in the back.
One moment while it's
Put out for us. Mr. Bridle, to the amendment.
Yeah, Russell Bridle, 225 Toll Farm Road. Although it may be well-intended, I do not believe you can have a warrant article if you don't have an exact figure on the dollar amount.
My point exactly, that's the $65,000.
So $65,000, and at any time, any school can come in and ask for the same warrant article or a similar warrant article as to what Sacred Heart has done, if there was a school set in town. So I don't think this warrant article is relevant. So, thank you.
Angelo Montrone, can you just clarify, this addition would mean that any religious school would be able to have a claim, or that they would need to go through an approval process?
As I understood it, there would be, if another religious educational institution in the town of Hampton seeks funds, that would divide the 65,308 by 2.
So
Two more
can you,
divided by 3.
okay, so you're a lawyer. Can you confirm for me if the Church of Satan were to establish a school here that taught racial discrimination, anger, and hatred towards all mankind, would they be instantly eligible to divide the money with Sacred Heart School?
It'd be interesting to find out.
But according to that description, and I'm not putting down the description, but I'm just pointing out that it needs to be well written and well thought about, because you may end up funding something that everyone in the town goes crazy about, and we don't know what that's funding. I would suggest that if there's a school that wants to also be involved with this, they should come here and ask for the money and present who they are and let the people vote. But this is a little bit open-ended. It literally allows any group to come here and claim a school and get money. It could be problematic. So be it.
Hi, I'm Judy Bridle. I've been a resident for 47 years, and both of my children went to public school. And I have a question. Can this body change the meaning and purpose of a warrant article?
It may change the intent, yes.
They can change the intent? Okay, even though it's a petition warrant article, okay. All right, so if this passed, then all religions would be welcome to get the $65,000 without doing a petition warrant article?
They would get their share of it.
Okay.
Corinne Baker, Exeter Road. So is this money being given because there are Hampton's children, and or because it's located in Hampton? Does it have to be both? Both Hampton residents, children of Hampton residents, and the school is located in Hampton? Doesn't really read that.
The way it's amended now, it does not read that way. The Sacred Heart students would have to attend and be residents. The others would not.
Would not have to be in
required is
Hampton.
that the educational institution be within the town of Hampton.
Would not have to be located in Hampton?
The institution, yes.
Okay.
Moderator Brian Warburton, let's take this home. If I understand this correctly, and Mariah Curtis would be working 400 hours a week, what a nightmare this is. Are we keeping 65,000 just splitting up to where other schools come in? Is that the intent?
Potentially, that's the way the wording reads, yes.
Well, here's what we all know. Whether it's Sacred Heart School or whatever other organizations Mr. Breyer will talk to, every person or persons have a right to do a warrant article. So, and to Erica, if somebody moved in tomorrow and developed a new school, let's say next couple of years, and they wanted funds, they would work as Sacred Heart has, get 25 signatures, let the voters decide. What this says, who are you putting the pressure on? Right over there. 65,000, what is she going to decide? Oh, you get 2 cents, you get $300. This is unfair to Sacred Heart, the people who, and I don't care what the organization is, but Sacred Heart duly did their due diligence and for years have put this in. This article is about Sacred Heart, Child Benefit Services. It is not talking about others. And if people want to do their own warrant article, they have the right to do that. But let's not group this into like, now we're going to add stuff that's not in its 10. Thank you.
All clear on the amendment? Seeing Seeing none. All in favor of the amendment, raise your right hand and hold it up, please. Opposed? The amendment fails. Further discussion on Article 5.
Move the question.
Question has been moved. Question will move to the ballot as presented. That ends our business for the evening. The second session, the balloting, will be held at the Winnicott High School Dining Hall, 1 Alumni Drive in Hampton, New Hampshire, on Tuesday, March the 8th, 2022.